Get ready for your daily dose of WordPress and web development tips, tricks, and insights to help you find success with WordPress. You're listening to WP the Podcast with your hosts, David Blackman and Tim Streifler.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of WP the Podcast, brought to you by WP Gears. I'm Tim Streifler, and my other co-host, David Blackman, is still out for the time being, but he will be back with us soon. So if you've been listening for a while, you know that David and I tag team the podcast, and so usually it's both of us, and so he will be back. He's been taking some much-needed time off, and he'll be back with us shortly. And so, today we're going to be talking about hosting acquisitions / monopolies and why they are concerning. So if this topic seems out of the blue, let me give you some background story, kind of how this came about and why we're talking about it. Recently, WP Engine, the hosting company, acquired Flywheel, another hosting company. And it created a lot of buzz online in the WordPress community. A lot of people pointing it out just because, hey, this is a big deal when a big hosting company acquires another pretty big hosting company. It's definitely news and something to look into. But most of the people that were pointing it out weren't super stoked about it. And kind of, I think the general consensus of people that were Flywheel fans were not happy about it. People that were WP Engine fans, in their mind, hey, the company that they're invested in terms of building their business on their servers, are growing and they're acquiring companies. You know, what is there not to be happy about? But for people that are Flywheel customers, they were worried that WP Engine is going to ruin the company. They really like Flywheel. Flywheel has created a great brand, great hosting, and it's definitely something to be concerned about. And so I kind of want to talk about what has kind of been the culture of hosting companies, not just WordPress hosting companies, but hosting companies overall. Is there's been a lot of acquisitions. There's a company called Endurance International Group, known by EIG for short. They own over 60 hosting companies. In the WordPress world, a lot of the big ones are HostGator. Bluehost is owned by them as well. They own Constant Contact, which isn't hosting, but related. A lot of different ones out there. Sitebuilder.com. I'm trying to see any ones I recognize here. I've heard of PureHost. Mojo Marketplace is owned by EIG. And so kind of the overall consensus of people that are customers of any of these companies is that when they were purchased by EIG ruined the company, and being a part of their just monopoly essentially has destroyed the culture, the customer experience, and it's definitely something to be concerned about. And it's so much so that a lot of people, they will steer clear of any company that's owned by EIG because of the reputation that they have to what happens to companies once they are purchased. And so, for example, Constant Contact used to be the leader in email marketing, like over 10 years ago, maybe 15 years ago. They were kind of like, almost like the pioneers of the easy to use newsletter, email list solution for anybody to be able to put together, use their templates, that sort of thing. And then they were acquired by EIG, and essentially, I don't think they've updated the platform at all. And it's pretty much just how it was 10 years ago or however long ago it was when they were acquired. And so they fell behind. Now their tools are terrible compared to MailChimp and ActiveCampaign and the other big players in the space that just kind of dominate. And so same thing, I was a customer of HostGator, and then they got acquired and my site got hacked. Can I blame it on EIG? I don't know. I kind of like to. I have no idea if that actually has anything to do with it, but it's definitely something to be concerned about. And so I think with people's concern with WP Engine acquiring Flywheel is it's kind of reminds them of the EIG monopoly of these big companies that are acquiring these other companies and ruining the culture, the customer experience that people have grown to know and love, and that's what they bought into. And another thing is it gives customers less choices. So WP Engine is a managed WordPress hosting provider. Flywheel is a managed WordPress hosting provider. And so they do the same thing. Lately, they've kind of been catering to different audiences. Flywheel more of the freelancer and small agency, where WP Engine's been going more after the enterprise, big agencies and enterprise. And so strategically, it kind of makes sense that they've done it. But it gives people less choices, because a lot of times people would say, okay, well, WP Engine's great, Flywheel's also really great, Flywheel's cheaper. And so people are afraid that WP Engine is going to take over Flywheel and swallow Flywheel, and basically destroying that additional choice, that additional lower price point choice that people have for really good, solid hosting that has, the managed components, built-in backups, and extra security, and one-click staging, stuff like that. And so I think it's definitely a rightful concern for people to be talking about and worrying about. And so, WP Engine has announced, we're not making any changes in the near future. Our cultures are similar, and so I want to be clear. Acquisitions are not evil by nature. I'm very pro business, pro free market type of thing. And I think acquisitions are great. David's company, for example, has acquired several companies actually, and ended up being a really good thing for the customer, especially, as well as their company overall. And so, however, in most cases, big acquisitions like this, unless they're done really well, they're rarely good for the customer. Sure, the company grows and is bigger and has more market share and makes more money, but the customer usually suffers for things like this, especially when it's one company acquiring a competitor. If it's like, for example, Apple acquiring Beats headphones, it's like they didn't really compete. There was kind of a different market, different product line, and so it made sense, and it ended up being a really good thing. Apple's been able to maintain that brand within their company, and so it works. But when it's one hosting company hiring another very similar, or acquiring another very similar hosting company, it's definitely cause for concern. So time will tell. Maybe we'll circle back in 6 months to a year and see, kind of what has happened to Flywheel. I'm actually customers of both. I was customer of WP Engine for quite a few years now, and more recently, within the last year or so, Flywheel. And I've been continuously impressed by Flywheel over the last year, to the point where I've considered moving all my sites from WP Engine to Flywheel. Now I'm not really sure what to do. It's like, do I want to jump ship altogether? I feel like I've been a little bit frustrated with WP Engine. I feel like they upped their prices without adding any additional value. And so they were already the most expensive one out there, and then they increased their prices again without adding anything significant. They said they added their digital experience platform, which essentially means nothing. It's tools that you can get elsewhere for free, and don't really add any value whatsoever. What people want is good quality, fast, reliable hosting, and they were doing that, delivering on it. And you had to pay for it, pay a premium price, but it was worth it. And then when they raised the prices, it was not a good move. And so they've been doing some things that I've been a little bit concerned about, and it kind of makes me uncertain as a customer. And so now when they're acquiring the company that I was looking at switching over to, it's kind of like got me a little bit flustered. And so I feel like it's a very similar feeling to a lot of the community out there that are customers of Flywheel. So yeah, hope that was helpful and makes sense. If you have any questions or comments, anything you'd like to add, I definitely do not claim to be an expert on these companies and their strategies and stuff like that. But if you have anything of value, go to wpgears.com for episode 556. and let us know your thoughts. All right, until tomorrow, we'll see you then. Take care. Bye-bye.
We've come to the end of today's episode of WP the Podcast. Join us tomorrow for more daily tips and strategies designed to help you run your WordPress business toward success. Remember to subscribe to WP the Podcast so you can stay up to date with each episode. And don't forget to rate and review us. We'll see you again tomorrow right here on WP the Podcast.